Hey guys, what's up? It's Stephanie. I am back today with another video, and the video for today is going to be the second part to the first part of what are the most commonly asked or most frequently asked questions at your PA school interview. So like I said before, I'm trying to make these videos a lot shorter, so I'm trying to break this video up into a few videos. That way it's not that long. You don't have to sit there watching me talk for a long time, guys. And like I said also in my previous videos, I'm going to try to be able to make more videos for you guys before I start PA school. I start PA school in August, so I'm really excited, and I will be recording my journey basically also to the school, my white coat ceremony, and also how my first day and first week goes at PA school. So I'm extremely nervous because I know how hard PA school is, so I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for that. In the next month I have a few vacations booked, so I'm really excited about that. I'm trying to enjoy the free time I have as much as I can, because I know once I start PA school it's going to be really difficult to do that. Alright guys, so if you guys are interested, just keep watching and what's wrong with me today, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye. Alright guys, so like I said, this is the second part to the first part of what are the most frequently asked questions that I remember that I had when I interviewed last year. So this is just a continuation. If you're interested, if you want to watch also the first video, I have other two questions there, and I will be discussing more questions today. So another question that I had was the infamous also, tell me about yourself, or tell me something about yourself. So the way to approach these questions are to discuss your experience, what you think has prepared you to become a physician assistant, whether it's been your medical experience, your school experience, etc. So this is how I approach this question. I started by talking about my experience. I answered it similar to how I answered why I want to become a physician assistant, but I added a lot more. I started by talking about how I have 5 years of healthcare experience. I've worked in a variety of healthcare settings, and I've worked with a variety of populations also, patient populations. I've worked with underserved populations. I've worked with populations that have better access to healthcare. I've also worked with healthcare settings that are in rural areas, and I also talked about how I really enjoyed working with all these populations, but I especially enjoyed working with the underserved populations. I really enjoyed that patient interaction that I had with them. Also the fact that I was able to relate to them, being that my family majority of the time when I was younger also did not have access to healthcare. The majority of the healthcare that we obtained was in Mexico. Specifically also, I can say dentally wise, I had issues with my teeth, so I had my braces done in Mexico, and how I had to travel back and forth to do that. Also when it came to anything medical, we also did the same thing since it was a lot cheaper in Mexico. So I talked about how I was able to relate with these patients. Also how in my experience, I am a bilingual. I speak Spanish, hablo español, and I speak English also. And how this skill helped me work with these underserved areas, specifically the population that I work with in downtown San Antonio. The majority of them did not speak English, and it was really difficult because sometimes in the healthcare department, in the ER, I was sometimes the only individual who spoke Spanish. So I was translating for the physicians, for the nurses, etc. And I would see how frustrated patients would get when they weren't able to get across what they were trying to say to the physician because the physician didn't understand them. So I discussed also this about tell me something about yourself, and being that I have experience working in a variety of healthcare settings with a variety of patient populations. I am bilingual. I speak Spanish and English. I also told them that I am first generation. So I am the oldest child from my family. My parents immigrated from Mexico, and I'm the oldest. I have 2 younger sisters, and how this also has motivated me to want to pursue the PA career is that I want to set a good example for my 2 younger siblings so that they can follow in that. And I think I've done a good job so far. Hopefully, my second sister, my middle sister, she wants to become a physician assistant also, like I've said before, and she's also applying this year. So I mentioned that in some of the interviews. I actually mentioned that in the interview that I got accepted at. I told them that I was the oldest and how my middle sister was also wanting to become a physician assistant. I also told them that I am able to work under stressful situations, that I worked in the emergency room and it's a very stressful situation, how I'm also a good team player. I also told them how I have very good organization skills. I was able to organize myself well working on under these stressful situations, being that I was sometimes also the only registrar in the entire hospital, and also how during my undergrad years, the majority of the time I did work full-time and I attended school full-time. For 2 years, I worked overnight, 12-hour shifts, and then I would go to school during the day. So in this situation, I was able to learn time management skills. I was able to balance both work and school and still be able to get good grades, not excellent grades, but I was able to get good grades, finish all my coursework in school, and at the same time be able to pay for my tuition. So this is also what I talked about when they asked me to tell me about yourself. So how do you approach this question is just to talk about your experience, what you think has prepared you to become a PA. You can also mention a few things if you're first generation like I am. I would definitely mention that, definitely. Also, the skills that you've gained, being that, for example, for me, it was time management skills, being able to work under stressful situations, organization skills, and also what other skills you may have. You may be also, I also talked about my communication skills, being that I am able to communicate well with patients, not only patients, but also with medical staff, nurses, physicians, etc. So you want to shine when they ask you this question. So once again, tell me about yourself, list your experience, what you've learned from your experience, what skills you've learned from your experience. You can also talk about your personal life, first generation, mention it. Bilingual, definitely mention it. And this is how I answered this question, how I approached it. So this is just my advice. Another question that you're definitely going to get, like for sure, and they're always going to ask you at the end of the interview is, do you have any questions for us? So it's really important to study the school or research information about the school. That's what I did. Before I went to the interview for every school, I went to their website. I printed out the mission statement they had, also information about the PA program, and I highlighted what I thought was important about the program, because they will ask you if you have any questions. It's really important to have a question prepared for them. Whether it is a question about their PA program, about their clinicals, for example, whether you're able to do their clinicals at home or you have to do them where the school is located. I know I did ask these questions because some of the schools I applied to weren't near my home or weren't in Texas. So this is one of the questions I did ask, is whether I was able to do some of their clinicals. They had to be done there, or I could do them at home where I live. So this is one of the questions. For some of the schools, I did take a portfolio. I'm sorry, for all the interviews, I did take the portfolio. For some of the schools, I did take out my folder, not all of them because I was extremely nervous, but for some of them, I did take out my portfolio and I had written down questions already for the school, whether it was based on their mission statement or what the program had. I know one of the programs that I applied to, they had, some of the classes were integrated with medical students, nurses, and other staff, other schools or other programs within the school. And so I asked them a little bit more if they can provide me with a little bit more information about these classes are, what's the learning outcome, etc. So that's why it's really important to research the school, especially when it comes down for these type of questions, because you want to know about their mission. Also, another thing, pay attention. I know before you go to the interview, you'll get a welcome from the individual who sits on the admissions committee, and they'll talk about the program, they'll talk about their mission, etc. So it's very important to pay attention. That's what I did. I paid attention, and then I wrote down if I had any questions. That way, when you go to the interview and they ask you if you have any questions for them, you can ask them. Yes, for example, you would say, I noticed that during your introduction or your information about the program, you mentioned this. So I have a question about this, and that's going to look really well. So tips for this, of course, is to research the program. I took, like I said, my portfolio, and I had a folder in my portfolio, and I took out the portfolio in one of the interviews, and I just asked them the questions that I had written down. So be prepared. If you can, write down questions that you may have for the program, that way you can answer them. So it's really important to have those questions. That way they know that you are interested in the program and you've researched the program and you know what the program mission statement is, what the program involves, etc. So this is another question that was really oftenly asked, was actually asked in every interview I had, was, do you have any questions for us? Do you have any questions for me? I remember one of the schools, which I thought was really cool, is that during the summer they do organize kind of for all the PA students this kind of mission where they go overseas to areas that are rural, whether it was in South America, and they basically go and they work with these rural areas or underserved areas. And I asked them about this because I thought it was awesome, and I also, when I asked them, I told them that this is something I want to do in the future as a future PAs, be able to travel and be able to work with these areas that are underserved, especially in South America, being that I do speak Spanish. So I asked her, I was so intrigued with this, so I know I had like 5 minutes that we were discussing this, and then she had to cut me off, of course, because the interview was almost to its end. So, and this, I had only learned about this because she had talked about it in her, when she was giving us the introduction and the program overview at the beginning when I went to the school that day. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to see if you have any questions and to ask them. Alright guys, so these are another 2 questions that I had. Is most infamous one also is, tell me something about yourself, or tell me about yourself, and do you have any questions for us? So I hope this video helps you guys out, how I approached them, how I would advise you to approach them. Of course, like I said, feel free to watch other YouTubers. I know everybody answers them differently. And like I mentioned in the first video, I did use this book to answer them. It's a great book. I really recommend it for you guys. It has a question, and then it basically gives you 3 answers. It'll give you the best answer, the mediocre answer, and the worst answer. And then it'll tell you why the best answer is the best answer, and why the mediocre answer is a mediocre answer, and why the worst answer is the worst answer. So this is how I prepared for these questions. The 2 questions were also in this book. What I did is that I went through every question, and I had a journal, and I wrote down basically the question and how I would answer it here. So it was like several pages, and I studied this so much before my interviews, so I really recommend that. Don't copy per verbatim what he says, because you know how certain students answered the questions here don't apply to you. I know he used a lot of examples for individuals who are in the military. I'm not in the military, so of course I can't copy exactly how the individuals who are in the military answered these questions. So answer them how you think is the best way to answer them according to this. That's what I did, and it really helped me out, guys. Alright guys, so I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you guys have any comments or questions, like I've said before, comment below. If not, shoot me an email. If you don't have an email, just send me a message through Instagram. I have my Instagram there. It's EMOYAV, Imoya B, Stephanie Moya. And I will contact you guys as soon as possible. And like I said, my goal is for you guys to get accepted into PA school. If you guys have gone to interviews, make sure you comment below so I congratulate you guys, because that's a huge, huge accomplishment that you should be proud of. And trust me, once, like I said, you get that interview, it is totally worth it. It's just this awesome feeling. Even better once you get accepted. Like I said, it only takes one acceptance. So if you only get one interview, just make sure you nail it, because it only takes one acceptance. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.